Have you ever felt that deep aching in your chest? That raw, crushing weight that makes each breath feel like you're inhaling shards of glass. That moment when the pain is so intense that tears seem like your only salvation. Yet something inside whispers, "Don't you dare cry." I see those subtle nods. I feel the energy shift in this room. Because every single one of us knows that feeling. That battle between what we feel and what we think we should feel. That war between our heart's need to release and our mind's determination to maintain control. We live in a world that's grown afraid of tears. We've created this bizarre reality where showing emotion has somehow become equivalent to showing weakness. Big boys don't cry. Keep a stiff upper lip. Don't let them see you sweat. These phrases echo through our collective consciousness like mantras of emotional suppression. But I'm here today to share something that might shake the very foundation of what you believe about strength and weakness. Something that could transform the way you view your own emotional landscape forever. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you really truly allowed yourself to cry? Not those quiet tears you hide in the bathroom. Not those moments you quickly wipe away hoping nobody noticed. I mean, really cry. The kind of crying that comes from the depths of your soul, that shakes your entire being, that leaves you feeling somehow both completely empty and entirely full at the same time. If you're struggling to remember, you're not alone. And that's precisely why we need to have this conversation today. You see, tears are not a sign of weakness. They're liquid wisdom. They're the physical manifestation of our deepest truths, our most profound feelings, our most authentic selves breaking through the walls we built around our hearts. When we cry, we're not breaking down. We're breaking open. Think about a seed for a moment. Before it can grow into a magnificent tree, it must first break open. That breaking isn't a sign of weakness. It's the very essence of its strength. It's the necessary catalyst for growth. Our tears serve the same purpose. But here's where many of us get stuck. We've learned to fear the breaking. We've been conditioned to believe that if we start crying, we might never stop. That if we allow ourselves to feel the pain, it might swallow us whole. That if we acknowledge our brokenness, we might never find our way back to wholeness. Let me tell you something. That fear is based on an illusion that has been perpetuated by a society that values stoicism over authenticity, that prizes appearance over truth, that would rather see us pretend to be whole. The truth is, crying is not the enemy. Staying broken is. And there's a world of difference between when you cry, you're not showing weakness. You're showing courage. You're having the audacity to be real in a world that often rewards pretense. You're choosing truth over comfort, authenticity over acceptance, growth over stagnation. I remember sitting with a group of people who had experienced profound loss. One woman shared how she'd been holding back her tears for months after losing her spouse, believing that if she started crying, she'd never be able to function again. But then one day, while washing dishes, a simple memory broke through her carefully constructed walls and the tears came. She cried for hours that day. And you know what happened? The next morning, she woke up feeling lighter than she had in months. Not because the pain was gone. It wasn't. But because she had finally given herself permission to feel it, to acknowledge it, to honor it. That's what tears do. They honor our experiences. They give weight to our feelings. They validate our humanity. They're not a sign that we're broken beyond repair. They're proof that we're human enough to feel, brave enough to acknowledge those feelings, and strong enough to let them flow through us. But here's the crucial part. While it's okay to cry, it's not okay to set up permanent residence in your pain. There's a difference between processing your emotions and becoming them, between acknowledging your brokenness and identifying with, between using your tears as a catalyst for healing and using them as an excuse to stay stuck. Think of it like a thunderstorm. When dark clouds gather and rain begins to fall, we don't panic thinking the sun will never shine again. We understand that storms, no matter how fierce, are temporary. They serve a purpose, cleansing the air, nourishing the earth, clearing the way for new growth. Your tears serve the same purpose. They cleanse your emotional landscape. They nourish your soul. They clear the way for new understanding, new growth, new possibility. But just like a storm, Tears are meant to pass. They're meant to flow through you, not become you. They're meant to clean you out, not drown you. They're meant to help you heal, not keep you broken. This is where many people get stuck. They either refuse to cry, building dams around their hearts until the pressure becomes unbearable, or they get so comfortable in their pain that they forget how to exist without it. Neither approach serves your highest good. The key is finding the balance, the sacred space between denial and dwelling, between suppression and submergence, between resistance and residence. It's about learning to cry without shame, to feel without fear, to break open without staying broken. And that's what we're going to explore together today. How to navigate this delicate balance. How to honor our tears while not drowning in them. How to acknowledge our brokenness while continuing to move forward. How to use our pain as a catalyst for growth rather than an excuse for stagnation. So you know what's fascinating about human beings, our incredible capacity to feel, not just happiness or sadness, but this entire spectrum of emotions that can wash over us like waves in an endless ocean. Yet somewhere along the way, we've learned to fear these waves. We've convinced ourselves that some emotions are good and others are bad, that some feelings are acceptable and others should be hidden away. But what if I told you that every tear you've held back is a story waiting to be told? Every emotion you've buried is a lesson waiting to be learned. Every moment of brokenness is actually an opportunity for breakthrough. Let me share something profound with you. In the art of Japanese pottery, there's a practice called Kintsugi. When a piece of pottery breaks, instead of throwing it away or hiding the cracks, artisans repair it with gold. The result? Something even more beautiful than the original. The gold-filled cracks tell a story of resilience, of healing, of transformation. You are that pottery. Your tears, your pain, your moments of brokenness, they're not flaws to be hidden. They're opportunities for gold to be poured in. But here's the crucial part. You have to allow yourself to acknowledge the breaks before you can begin to fill them with gold. Think about this for a moment. How many times have you said, "I'm fine," when you were anything but fine? How many times have you smiled through your pain because you thought that's what strength looks like? How many times have you swallowed your tears because you were afraid of appearing weak? Let me tell you about strength. Real strength isn't about keeping the walls up. It's about having the courage to let them down. It's not about avoiding the storm. It's about learning to dance in the rain. It's not about never breaking. It's about how you choose to put yourself back together. But here's where many of us lose our way. We get stuck in what I call the broken loop. We experience pain, we feel broken, we try to hide it, the pain intensifies, we feel more broken, and the cycle continues. We become so focused on avoiding our pain that we forget its purpose. Pain, you see, is not your enemy. A pain is a messenger. And like any messenger, it will keep knocking at your door until you receive its message. Your tears are not a sign of weakness. They're your body's way of delivering that message. They're your soul's way of saying, pay attention. This matters. The real question isn't whether you should cry or not. The real question is, what will you do with those tears? Will you let them become a river that drowns you, or will you let them become the water that helps you grow? I want you to try something with me right now. Close your eyes for a moment. Think about the last time you held back tears. Feel that sensation in your throat, that pressure in your chest. Now, instead of fighting it, I want you to simply observe it. Don't judge it. Don't try to change it. Just observe it with curiosity. What you're doing right now. This is the beginning of emotional wisdom. This is where healing starts. Not in denying our pain, but in acknowledging it. Not in fighting our tears, but in understanding their purpose. You see, staying broken isn't about continuing to cry. Staying broken is about refusing to learn from what made you cry in the first place. It's about getting so comfortable in your pain that you forget who you are beyond it. It's about letting your wounds become your identity instead of your informant. Every tear contains a lesson. Every moment of brokenness holds a seed of wisdom. But you have to be willing to look for it. You have to be brave enough to ask. What is this pain trying to teach me? What is this breakdown trying to show me? What is this brokenness trying to reveal to me? There's a profound difference between being broken and being broken open. Being broken is a state of helplessness. Being broken open is a state of transformation. Being broken leaves you stuck in the past. Being broken open propels you into growth. Think of a butterfly emerging from its cocoon. In that moment of emergence, it must struggle. It must break open its protective shell. If you were to help it, if you were to break open the cocoon for it, you'd actually be doing it harm. Because it's through that struggle, through that breaking open, that it develops the strength it needs to fly. Your struggles, your tears, your moments of breaking open, they're developing something in you too. They're developing resilience, they're developing wisdom, they're developing strength. But only if you allow yourself to go through the process. Only if you resist the urge to numb the pain or rush the healing. This is what I mean when I say it's okay to cry, but not okay to stay broken. Crying is part of the process. Feeling the pain is part of the process. Breaking open is part of the process. But it's just that a part, not the whole story, not the final chapter, not your ultimate destination. Your tears are like rain, necessary for growth, but not meant to last forever. Your pain is like winter, a season of apparent death that precedes new life, but not meant to be permanent. Your brokenness is like the breaking of dawn, a darkness that comes just before the light, but not meant to be your constant state. The key is learning to hold both truths simultaneously. That it's okay to cry, and that you're not meant to stay broken. That you can honor your pain and choose to grow beyond it. That you can acknowledge your brokenness and actively participate in. So how do we do this? How do we learn to cry without drowning? How do we break open without staying broken? How do we honor our pain without becoming it? The answer lies in understanding a fundamental truth about human nature. We are not our emotions. We are the awareness behind them. We are not the storm. We are the sky that holds it. We are not our brokenness. We are the consciousness that observes it. This distinction changes everything. Because when you truly understand this, you realize that your tears don't define you. They refine you. Your pain doesn't diminish you. It deepens you. Your brokenness doesn't limit you. It liberates you. Let me share something powerful with you. In the depths of the ocean, there's tremendous pressure. So much pressure that most surface-dwelling creatures would be crushed by it. But the creatures that live in these depths don't just survive, they thrive. Why? Because they've developed something remarkable. They've learned to match the pressure outside with equal pressure inside. This is what emotional resilience looks like. It's not about becoming hardened to pressure or pain. It's about developing the internal strength to match whatever life presents externally. It's about building your capacity to feel deeply without being destroyed by those feelings. But how do we develop this capacity? It starts with understanding that healing isn't linear. It's not a straight line from broken to whole. It's more like a spiral. You might revisit the same spots, but you're meant to do so at a different level with new understanding, with greater wisdom. Think about this. Have you ever noticed how the same situation that once broke you completely might barely shake you now? That's not because you've become numb. It's because you've grown stronger. You've developed that internal pressure. You've learned to match life's challenges with equal inner resources. This is where most people misunderstand the healing journey. They think healing means never feeling pain again. But true healing isn't about becoming immune to pain. It's about becoming intimate with it, understanding it, learning from it, using it as fuel for growth rather than a reason for stagnation. Your tears are teaching you something profound about yourself. If you're willing to listen, they're showing you what matters to you, what you value, what you need to pay attention to. They're highlighting the gaps between where you are and where you want to be, between who you are and who you're becoming. But here's the crucial part. While your tears can show you the way, they can't walk the path for you. That's your job. That's where the choice between crying and staying broken becomes real. Choosing not to stay broken doesn't mean pretending you were never broken. It means using your brokenness as a foundation for building something new, something stronger, something more authentic. It's like building a house. You don't ignore the cracks in the foundation. You repair them. You don't hide the weak spots. You reinforce them. You don't pretend everything's perfect. You work with what's real to create something better. This is what emotional maturity looks like. It's not about never feeling broken. It's about knowing that brokenness is not your final state. It's about understanding that your tears are not your weakness. They're your water for growth. But growth requires more than just tears. It requires courage. The courage to look at yourself honestly. The courage to feel what you need to feel. The courage to change what needs to be changed. Let me ask you something profound. What if your brokenness isn't a mistake? What if it's not a flaw in the plan, but part of the plan itself? What if the very things that break your heart are also the things that have the power to expand it? You see, every time you cry, you're actually demonstrating incredible strength. You're showing that you're still capable of feeling deeply in a world that often encourages numbness. You're proving that your heart is still soft enough to be touched, still alive enough to respond, still brave enough to break open. But strength isn't just about having the courage to cry. It's also about having the wisdom to know when it's time to wipe your tears and take action, when it's time to move from feeling to healing, when it's time to transform your pain into purpose. This is where the real work begins. This is where we move from passive experiencing to active engaging. This is where we start to use our tears as tools for transformation rather than evidence of our weakness. Remember, every tear you cry carries within it a seed of wisdom. But seeds don't grow unless they're planted, unless they're given the right conditions, unless they're tended to with care and intention. Your growth works the same way. Your tears can soften the soil of your soul, but you have to plant the seeds. You have to create the conditions for growth. You have to tend to your healing with the same dedication a gardener tends to their garden. This means establishing new patterns, new ways of thinking, new ways of responding, new ways of being. It means learning to sit with your pain without being consumed by it, learning to feel your feelings without becoming, learning to break open without staying broken. There comes a moment in every healing journey when you have to make a choice between staying in the familiar comfort of your pain or stepping into the uncertain territory of growth, between letting your tears become your story or using them as chapters in a larger narrative. I want you to understand something profound about this choice. It's not a one-time decision. It's a choice you make over and over again, sometimes daily, sometimes hourly, sometimes with every breath. You see, transformation isn't an event. It's a practice. It's not something that happens to you. It's something you participate in, actively, intentionally. Think about water for a moment. When it's stagnant, it becomes murky, lifeless. But when it's flowing, it's clear, vibrant, life-giving. Your emotions work the same way. When you let them flow, through your tears, through your words, through your actions, they cleanse you, heal you, transform you. But when you hold them static, frozen in time, stuck in past hurts, trapped in old stories, this is what I mean when I say it's okay to cry, but not okay to stay broken. Crying is flow. Staying broken is stagnation. Crying is movement. Staying broken is paralysis. Crying is a process. Staying broken is a prison. Let me share something powerful with you about the nature of healing. In nature, everything moves in cycles. Day follows night. Spring follows winter. Growth follows decay. These aren't separate events. They're parts of the same continuous process. Your healing works the same way. Your tears aren't separate from your triumph. Your pain isn't separate from your power. Your brokenness isn't separate from your breakthrough. They're all part of the same cycle of transformation. But here's where many people get stuck. They wait to feel ready before they begin. They wait to feel strong before they take action. They wait to feel whole before they start healing. But that's like waiting for the sun to rise before you open your eyes. The truth is, you don't have to feel ready to begin. You don't have to feel strong to take action. You don't have to feel whole to start healing. You just have to be willing to take the next step, however small it might be. Sometimes that step is simply acknowledging your pain without judgment. Sometimes it's allowing yourself to cry without shame. Sometimes it's reaching out for help when everything in you wants to withdraw. Sometimes it's choosing to get up and face the day when your tears haven't yet dried. But each step, no matter how small, moves you forward. Each choice, no matter how difficult, builds your strengths. Each action, no matter how imperfect, contributes to your healing. Remember this. Your healing doesn't need to be perfect to be powerful. Your progress doesn't need to be linear to be meaningful. Your journey doesn't need to be smooth to be successful. What matters is not the speed of your healing, but the direction of your movement. Not the size of your steps, but your willingness to keep taking them. Not the absence of tears, but what you choose to do while they're falling. This is where real transformation happens. In the space between your tears and your triumph, in the gap between your pain and your power, in the journey from broken to breakthrough. But this journey requires something from you. It requires your active participation, your conscious choice, your deliberate engagement. It requires you to develop what I call emotional intelligence, the ability to feel your feelings without being controlled by them, to acknowledge your pain without being defined by it, to use your tears as tools for transformation rather than evidence of weakness. This means learning to listen to your emotions without letting them dictate your actions, to feel your feelings without following them blindly, to honor your pain without hanging on to it. It means developing new responses to old triggers, new ways of processing pain, new methods of moving through difficulty, new paths to peace. Think about it like learning to swim. At first, the water might feel overwhelming. You might fear drowning, but as you learn to move with the water instead of fighting against it, as you develop the skills to stay afloat, as you build the strength to navigate the currents, what once threatened to overwhelm you becomes the very medium through which you move with grace. Your emotions are like that water. Your tears are like that water. They can either drown you or become the medium through which you learn to move with grace. The difference lies not in the water itself, but in how you choose to engage with it. This is what emotional maturity looks like. It's not about never feeling overwhelmed. It's about knowing how to swim when the waters get deep. It's not about never crying. It's about knowing how to move forward even when tears cloud your vision. And here's something crucial to understand. This kind of emotional maturity isn't about age. It's about awareness. It's not about time passed. It's about lessons learned. It's not about experiences had. It's about wisdom gained. You can spend decades avoiding your emotions and never develop emotional maturity, or you can spend moments truly engaging with your feelings and gain profound wisdom. The difference lies not in the time spent, but in the quality of your engagement. This is why I say that tears can be your greatest teachers if you're willing to learn from them. They can show you what needs healing in your life, what needs attention, what needs transformation. So where do we go from here? How do we take these truths about tears and transformation and turn them into real, lasting change in our lives? The answer begins with a simple but profound shift in perspective. Instead of seeing your tears as something to be ashamed of, see them as evidence of your humanity. Instead of viewing your pain as a problem to be solved, instead of treating your brokenness as a burden to be carried, see it as a bridge to becoming. You see, every tear you cry is creating a river. And that river can either drown you or carry you to new shores. The difference lies not in the volume of your tears, but in your relationship with them. Think about this. What if every time you feel tears welling up, instead of pushing them down or apologizing for them, you simply said to yourself, this too is part of my journey. This too is teaching me something. This too is transforming me. Because here's the truth that most people never realize. Your tears aren't falling. They're flowing. And like any flow, they have the power to carry away what no longer serves you and nourish what's waiting to grow within you. But this understanding is just the beginning. The real work comes in learning to navigate this flow, in developing what I call emotional resilience. Not the ability to avoid pain, but the capacity to move through it with purpose and grace. This means learning to distinguish between the kind of crying that cleanses and the kind that keeps you stuck. Between the tears that heal and the tears that seal you in your hurt. Between breaking open and staying broken. How do you know the difference? Pay attention to what happens after you cry. Do you feel even slightly lighter, clearer, more open? That's breaking open. Do you feel heavier, more closed, more committed to your pain? That's staying broken. Breaking open creates space for something new. Staying broken keeps you trapped in what's old. Breaking open is active. Staying broken is passive. Breaking open is a choice. Staying broken is a surrender. The choice is always yours, in every moment, with every tear, with every breath. And here's something powerful to remember. You don't have to wait until you stop crying to start healing. Like you don't have to wait until you feel strong to begin growing. You don't have to wait until you're whole to start living. Your tears and your transformation can coexist. Your pain and your progress can happen simultaneously. Your breaking and your becoming can unfold together. This is what real healing looks like. Not a straight line from broken to whole, but a spiral of continuous growth where each tear waters the seeds of your transformation. So I invite you to make a new agreement with yourself today. An agreement that says, I will honor my tears without drowning in them. I will acknowledge my pain without becoming it. I will allow myself to break open without staying broken. This agreement isn't about never crying again. It's about crying with consciousness. It's not about never feeling pain. It's about feeling pain with purpose. It's not about never breaking. It's about breaking open instead of breaking down. Remember, every storm runs out of rain. Every night gives way to dawn. Every winter yields to spring. Your tears, your pain, your moments of brokenness, they're not your destination. They're part of your journey. But the journey doesn't end with the tears. It begins there. The tears soften the soil of your soul, but you must plant the seeds of change. The tears create the conditions for growth, but you must choose to grow. This is your invitation to something greater than mere survival. This is your call to genuine transformation. This is your opportunity to turn your tears into triumph, your pain into power, your brokenness into breakthrough. Because here's the ultimate truth. You're not just here to cry. You're here to create. You're not just here to hurt. You're here to heal. You're not just here to break. You're here to become. So yes, cry when you need to. Feel what you need to feel. Break open if you must. But don't stop there. Don't set up camp in your pain. Don't make your tears your home. Let your tears be like rain, necessary for growth, but not meant to last forever. Let your pain be like fire, transformative, but not your permanent residence. Let your brokenness be like winter, a season of apparent death. The world needs your wholeness, not your brokenness. It needs your light, not just your tears. It needs your wisdom, not just your wounds. It needs what you'll become when you allow yourself to move through your pain instead of getting stuck in it. So I leave you with this final truth. It's not just okay to cry, it's necessary. But it's equally necessary to keep moving forward, to keep growing, to keep becoming. Your tears are not your weakness. They're your water for... Your pain is not your enemy. It's your catalyst for transformation. Your brokenness is not your identity. It's your invitation to become more than you've ever been before. The choice is yours. The time is now. The journey begins with a single step. A step from crying to creating, from breaking to becoming, from staying broken to breaking open into something beautiful and new. Let your tears flow, but let them flow forward. Let your heart break, but let it break open. Let your story be one not just of survival, but of transformation, because that's what you're here for. That's what your tears are for. That's what this journey is for. And remember, every tear you cry with consciousness, every pain you feel with purpose, every break that opens you instead of destroying you, brings you one step closer to becoming who you're truly meant to be.